yeah, we're up. Uh, I've never done a live on YouTube before, so we'll see how it goes. We're at the park, waiting for story time to start, and there's kids playing in the background, so sorry for the disturbance, but this is life when you live in the city. So I got my coffee, thanks Mom, and some knitting while we sit and chat. Yeah, so honestly, the topic of this live is more for myself than it is for you guys, because I basically want to recap the year for myself. Ooh, so I'm also gonna pull out the kids call it my handy notebook. We're gonna pull out the handy notebook, and I'm gonna write down some of this stuff. And we're just gonna have a year of gardening in review, basically, from this spring to summer. Coffee. So I'm gonna start. I think what I want to do is go on a timeline. So I'm gonna start. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, they don't. They can play on there. Live right now. Live parenting for you all. So I just want to make a list. Because honestly, I probably should have been making this list when the garden year started, like back in February. But I didn't, because I was more focused on all of the fun things than I was on keeping track of what was happening. So
Elijah, careful.
We're gonna start with like the very beginning of the year, which was actually just after Christmas. So winter sowing, that ended up being like mostly a failure, which is not speaking negatively of myself, other than that sorry, I'm distracted by watching my kid on the playset. It was not really a failure, other than that it just didn't work. I like failing at things because I can learn from them, and I think winter sowing here especially could be a really great success, because our change from winter to spring and then into summer, the transition is so quick, as well as in fall, that it could be really useful for those days where it's still freezing at night and a lot of things couldn't survive, but in the day they could if they were insulated better. Come here to talk to me. Come here. Come around here. Do you want to say hello? No? Do you want to tell me what's going on?
Mom.
What are you screaming about?
There's no little kids there, so can I go there, please?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but clear out. Clear out if you need to, okay? Anyways, the winter sowing is something for me to learn better, so that is going to be, it's going to be on the list of fails. And we're going to do some more research and watching other people. Let's see. Another fail was my timing of things. So I guess it also was kind of in relation to the winter sowing, because I had everything banked on the winter sowing stuff. I didn't actually like do a backup for a lot of things. Biggest fail of all in that situation was the tomatoes. I started way too late. They started producing way later than I wanted, and they didn't produce as well because it was kind of like, ah. So, the timing on tomato starts, I want to do earlier. I also want to get my lettuces and things like that, like cabbages, my brassicas and things started earlier. There was a lot of stuff brassicas. There was a lot of things that I didn't start early enough that it's not a huge deal because we have a long growing season, but I did learn this year that it gets hot quick in the summer and it stays hot. Like, it just started cooling down at the end of September, honestly. So it was a good at least 2 months of unbearable for plants. Unbearable for plants. So we had a lot of things ripening, but not actually like producing more fruit because they were so stressed out. Let's see. Phil's succession sowing. Let's see. I want to do a lot better job of succession sowing this next year because I want to be able to have things. I want to have a bigger production, I guess. I want to have more production next year. This first year was all about learning, and that is one thing I have learned I need to implement is the succession sowing so that I can have a bigger harvest over the course of the summer, and also so I can, while I have that energy at the beginning of the year, get all those things like put up before I burn out, because honestly at this moment I'm burnt out. I've kind of been avoiding going out in the garden because it's fall and everything's looking sickly, and I'm just kind of like, I'm avoiding putting the garden away for the fall, and I'm sad that it's come to an end. Yeah. Oh, good morning. Good to see you, Sarah. Yeah. So, what's another one? Oh, having structures for things to climb on. I found I was very ill prepared for that, and I kind of made it up as I went along. And actually, surprisingly, the thing that has held up best is my funky little twiggy trellis that I have like right in the middle of my garden bed. If you've seen any of my garden tours, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. That thing has held up so great, and I'm so proud of it. But that is the only like trellising thing I tried early on in the summer that actually worked. I did do the like string trellises for my second round of tomatoes that I put in my keyhole bed, and those are working great, and so I'll probably switch to that. But then I have to also think about in the raised beds like building a structure that those strings can then hang from, which should be easy because my husband's an electrician and he has access to all the supplies. It says yes, it is. Yes, Sarah, it is. I'm so excited like to be doing this. I wanted to have an outline for this video and have it like presentable to you, but it ended up that we're doing it live, so that's fine too. So I'm gonna put structures were a fail and a success. They could be better. Let's see. So I'm going to talk about successes. Those jalapeno peppers that I had this year were an awesome success, as well as learning fermenting. So we're going to do peppers and the fermenting, which I need to learn fermenting all of the things because I still am eating those jalapeno peppers like they're candy, in everything that I can. They're delicious and wonderful. I'm going to say another success that I have had over the course of this summer. It doesn't really have to do with gardening, but it does have to do with homesteading skills, I guess, that kind of goes along with that fermenting, is sourdough, right? I have to confess that I haven't learned sourdough bread very well. I've heard that it's really easy, but I still am just riding that like, I don't think I can do it wave of like, I don't know, hesitation. But I have been using it. Oh, I love Doug and Stacy. And yes, I've seen her fermentation videos. I want to watch more. But the sourdough, I have done, I've mastered crumpets. I've mastered naan bread, which is actually like, it turns out more like a pita, or like a, if you've ever had chapatis, which is like an Ethiopian type bread. That's what it reminds me of. And so it pleases me to make it because it brings back all these childhood memories of my Kenyan neighbors and going over and eating all of their flatbread. Like I would just sit in their kitchen and eat it with jam and butter, or just plain. So that has been like a staple in our kitchen the last several months, is having this naan bread, which is so easy to make. You roll it out and you stick it in a pan, and you can keep it in the freezer for days. And we've done pizzas on it, which is, that's a common thing people do, but I'm making it myself. And so I get to say all of our ingredients on our pizza are like made on our homestead. It's just so pleasing to me. Okay, other successes. I grew 2 pumpkins this year, and I was sure that my squash game was so bad that I wasn't even gonna have anything. So, another like fail at the squash, right? But success at getting 2 pumpkins. The beans, like my green beans, the bush beans, and the pole beans, they all kind of started out as a fail, but we actually ended up getting a really good harvest on those Blue Lake pole beans. They were just really late. And the Helda Romano beans, I thought they were going to be like a green bean, but I think they're more like a pantry bean. And so I probably should have started those earlier so that I could shell them and keep the hard beans in the pantry. But it was a envelope of seeds that I got from a friend that I probably didn't actually like read the seed packet of. I was just like, oh, that looks fun, and then didn't remember what the beans were supposed to look like. So maybe what I should do, I should start a list that says due next year, right? Due next year. Sorry, there's lawnmowers going behind me because I'm at well, it's a park, but it has a master gardener's like demonstration garden behind me, and they're doing stuff. It's fall, they're doing stuff. It's lovely to walk through the garden here. It's right by my house. We walk through the garden and we see all the master gardeners doing their thing. And yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see them going about their business, and you can always learn something new just by sitting and watching. So it's really fun. Let's see. A great success. Oh, yay, I'm really glad that the sound is clear. That's good to know. Hi, good morning.
I'm looking for job nanny. If you
Oh,
know
a nanny.
somebody,
For a nanny?
recommend me.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm glad to know that the sound is clear. Thank you, Sarah. Let's see. Oh, success. Herbs, right? So I maybe didn't get a huge harvest off of all the herbs that I wanted, but I got a lot of staples. So, ooh, careful coffee, honey. What, honey?
That little kid is
Uh-huh.
listening to me.
You're playing better?
Yeah,
You're playing better? Okay, hey, don't be bossy, right? Don't be bossy.
I'm just doing a pirate thing.
Okay, okay. He's being a pirate, I think. I think I heard pirate. Might have been firefighter. So like my parsley, the fennel was awesome to have. The summer savory, the rosemary. The only thing out of the herbs really that failed was I couldn't get cumin to come up, and basil, which I've always struggled with for some reason, and it's so frustrating because I feel like nobody else does. And so we're gonna give the basil a good try. I have like a million seed varieties of basil because it's one of my favorite things to eat, especially on like a pizza or just with cheese and tomato. But I gotta be able to grow it first, right? So we're gonna try and step up the basil game. and the mint. The mint was actually doing wonderful until I left for about 4 days, and Woody was in charge of the garden, and he thought it was a weed. It looked like a weed, to be fair. If you have no idea what you're looking at in a garden, you might have thought it was a weed. I might have. But it dried out and it died, which was really sad for me. But again, I have a lot of seed. It would be nice to have a lot of mint next year. And let's see, parsley was great, oregano was great, the summer savory, and the fennel. I have to say one failure that I'm actually like in the midst of right now is harvesting that, like, those last rounds of stuff, you know, at the end of summer. So right now, that mustard plant that I had going wild, that I've been so excited about, it's almost dry. I think I may let it dry completely. Birds are leaving it alone, which is amazing. And so I need to go out and harvest it, and I've just kind of been procrastinating about it again because I don't want to put the garden away for the fall. And I'm a little bit unsure of how exactly I'm going to use it. So let's see. Know preservation plans before you plant something. And I've talked about plans, but maybe research it better. Tomatoes have been a pretty decent success. We've gotten a lot of pace and a lot of cherry tomatoes. And I think I talked about this in a garden tour a few weeks ago. One of my last ones that my big slicers and stuff, I don't know if it's because they were like the really frilly ones, you know, that have like all the creases in them, or if it's just because they're so big and it got so hot quick. Like, again, we're into that, like, not starting things early enough. They didn't have time to reach maturity before they got beaten down by our summer. Anyways, I think the plan for next year is to only do paste and cherry tomatoes, because we did great on those. But the big slicers, they kept cracking and bugs getting in them, and there were a couple I brought in the house because I thought they might be all right, and then I found caterpillar worms on them later, and it just was not appetizing. It went straight to the chickens. I didn't even cut it open. So we're gonna start a little bit smaller on the tomatoes next year and focus on paste and cherry, which is really, honestly, that's what we use the most of anyways. I like to have a slicer for hamburgers once in a while, like cheeseburgers or just a tomato sandwich. But there's no reason for me to have more than 1 or 2 tomato plants. I can give that space to other tomatoes that are going to produce a lot more volume because they're little cherry tomatoes or smaller paste tomatoes. So let's see, a success I had, we built a whole nother garden bed. We have another keyhole garden going in. It still needs to be finished, but it's laid, and it's been filled with sticks and a lot of like yard debris, mostly from the chickens. And so it's ready to kind of be finished up, which we'll do this fall. I did all of my own compost, and we have actually at least halfway filled our garden beds from last year with what we had on our property, which I'm so proud of. We haven't even bought of soil for the homestead. There's a lawnmower riding past me. Let's see. Again, another like in-betweeny thing would be my my flowers, right? So I had a lot of flowers started. I had a lot of flowers grow this year, but I think I get overwhelmed by like all the beautiful things, and I want to do all of them, and then I am paralyzed about where to put them. Like I don't have the forward vision to think how a certain flower is going to look in a certain place or what. And so it turned out beautiful this year, I do have to say, but maybe a little bit more forethought and planning into what flowers I'm putting where and doing them a little bit more. Oh, good morning, Chrissy. Doing it a little bit more thoughtfully and having it planned out. Let me write this down for a second. So I think the last garden tour I did, I talked about the Mexican sunflower I had, and that thing, like, it towered. Like, it was probably about the height of my neighbor's, like, lilac tree, which if you have seen those, you know they get pretty tall. And it finally fell over. It didn't crack and it didn't die. It continued to grow, and so it fell over, and all of the flower shoots started growing up, and now they're, again, those little flower offshoot branches are, again, as tall as that lilac tree, and it's finally blooming. I finally saw the flowers last week, and I'll try and do like an Instagram post or something like that this week. I know I've been terrible about doing photos or reels, whatever. My life is a little bit crazy since school started. But I will try and get some photos. They're the most gorgeous things I've ever seen, and they are well worth the wait. And I'm gonna start those a lot earlier last year. I got those from a friend of mine. If you probably haven't seen her, because I know she's only on Instagram, but if you go on Instagram, she's Take a Peek Farm, and she is a lot better at flowers than I am. She's doing pollinator stuff, but she's pretty close by me, not too far. Anyways, she gave me some of those seeds, and so she and I have been sitting here asking each other, has it bloomed yet? Has it bloomed yet? Do you see any flowers? And she got hers first, but I know her plant is a little bit smaller than mine. But we've been discussing the last few weeks about our plans for these Mexican sunflowers for next year, and I feel like there's something that has to be started way ahead of time, so that they'll actually flower and be able to, give more than just a couple before the frost comes. I mean, I'm 14 days or so, 14 days from my last frost, which it'll be so disappointing to have all of these buds on there just die and wither up. But there's always next year. Mexican sunflowers. They're gorgeous. So gorgeous. Other successes. Oh, one thing I'm really proud of, and it kind of just has to do with like the homestead in general, right? We figured out a system for our chickens' compost manure. Like, we knew that we wanted to do deep litter method, but we struggled last year figuring out how to do it and be sanitary, right? We don't want birds getting sick. We don't want it stinking. And so what we figured out how to do this year, and that I'm really proud of, and it just seems simple and silly, but it's when we mow the lawn, we dump all of the grass clippings in there for the chickens. They scratch it up and compost it, and then it goes in to either into the compost bin or it goes straight into a garden bed. I don't know why we didn't think about that last year. I spent so many hours last summer digging, trying to compost big old clumps of grass. I don't know why we didn't think of it last year. And it's worked beautifully. Our chicken area is, I don't remember how big it is. It's probably a 25 by 25 little run, and their compost is pretty deep. Like, we have to have a stump at the gate to make sure that it can open, and we can get in and out. But that was a good success. I was glad that we figured out a system for that, and it should work really well. We'll probably scoop it up and clean it out for the fall, and then put a fresh round of straw or something in there. We won't have access to the grass clippings for over the winter, but we'll probably put some new, yeah, good strategy, right, Christy? We're gonna probably put some new material in there for over the winter to kind of help them have some warmth and something to scratch through, and it keeps them up off of the ground too. So that area was like a gravel space, you know, and when you live in the city, this is like a normal thing, but like the layer of plastic underneath the dirt or gravel or landscaping stuff is like, it's one of my giant pet peeves, honestly. And there's some plastic there. We got up as much as we could, but it's still there, and I like that the deep litter keeps the chickens off of that plastic. I don't like them having to scratch through that. So it kind of protects the deep ground too from the chickens going too wild at it. Yeah. I think that's about all I've got from our summer so far. It's been a great summer. I feel like I've learned so much, and yeah, I'd love to hear what your guys' successes and fails have been, and kind of what you guys have been learning this summer, what you've come up with, and how you've grown. I think I showed you guys my knitting as I sat down, right? So these are like my winter projects, right? Like my homesteading skills for over the winter is knitting and baking and cooking. We have a lot of tomatoes. We have a lot of tomatoes still in our freezer, so we'll probably do a few videos on like how we're planning on using our tomatoes and our other things that are in the freezer. I know we have plans for stir fry and stuff, but once the fall hits, we just kind of become homebodies, and we want to stay inside and not do anything, and that's fine. It gets so stinking cold here that it's like run out and do morning chores, and then go inside and snuggle up to research or books or my knitting or whatever. So if there's anything that you guys particularly want to see that we might be practicing over the winter, we're in Tri-Cities, Washington, so like south central. We're right near a river, but because we're in the shadow of the mountains, it doesn't rain a lot. It's like a desert, and so we get pretty cold winters compared to the west side, or even in Spokane, and really hot summers. Like, we had a few weeks of 110 this year, so the weather swings. Like, I feel like we spend the peak winter and the peak summer indoors, hiding from the atmosphere, from the environment. But zone 7B, 7A, 7B. So we have a relatively long growing season.
Mom.
Oh, welcome from California. Oh, awesome. I'm so excited. What part of the Northwest are you in, Christy?
Mom.
Huh. Would you like to say good morning again? Oh, Vancouver, Washington. Yeah. So we.
Mom.
Huh.
Can you help me get on the monkey bars?
Oh no, I'm still doing my video.
I need
How about
help.
after? Can you give me like 5 minutes?
It's so hard.
It is really hard, but you know what? You're strong and brave, and you can do hard things.
It's so scary.
It's not scary.
What about I get hurt?
Yeah, so we moved from the Seattle area, which is very similar.
Hurt.
Oh, well, do it carefully. I think that ground is pretty squishy. So even if you fall down, you'll be good. Yeah? Monkey bars. Yeah, so we moved from Seattle, which is very similar climate to Vancouver. And sometimes I miss it, but mostly I enjoy having the sunshine out even when it's too below freezing. I enjoy that. And it has really helped with like the vitamin D intake, I guess, like the emotional things that happen over winter, the depression. It's a real thing when you live in Seattle. I grew up with it, and so I can tell you that yeah, it gets dark over there in the winter. I do miss the rain sometimes. Like right now I've been praying for rain. But it'll go for a couple weeks and then be done. So yeah, I think I need to help a certain 4-year-old on the monkey bars. But it's been a good chat with you ladies this morning, and I'm really glad that you came on to hang out with me. We'll catch you later, and live simply. How do I turn this off now? How do I do it? Aha.